Good afternoon. My name is Chris Adam with Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm delighted to be joined by Lauren Pashley, the Business Development Manager at Home Instead. Hello, Lauren.
Hi, thanks
Uh,
for having me.
Thank you for giving up your valuable time this afternoon. And I guess my starter for 10 question really has to be, can you tell me about Home Instead and what you do?
Yeah, so I work for a company called Home Instead, and we provide care to our community. So it's domiciliary care, which means you would be travelling in and around our local community between postcodes NR1 to NR8 specifically, and providing care to people within their own homes. Now, the types of care that we do can range. It can be from companionship visits, so that means taking people out. It might be taking them out food shopping, taking them for a walk around the block to the pub, out for cups of tea and coffee. It could be a bit of medication help, some light housework, some meal preparation, so making some sandwiches or dinner for our clients, and some personal care too. So it's a very varied role, really.
Thank you. I know it's never easy to succinctly answer, what do you do as a answer to a question. So that's brilliant. And I'm assuming you also get lots of people who volunteer for the companionship visits to the pub.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a really enjoyable role. You are helping the community, so you're having a role where you feel fulfilled as well. And yeah, some of our care professionals have been with us over 10 years, so I think that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, you've sort of touched a little bit on it there, actually, about maybe the kind of traits that someone might need to actually work in this field. And as I say, if you look at sort of, your colleagues that have been with you for a long time, what kind of traits do they have which allow them to sort of thrive in this role, whether they be personality or character traits?
Yeah, so we would say that, communication is key in this role. So if you can hold a conversation with someone, listen to them as well. Listening is a really important skill to have. Be friendly, empathetic as well, and just have the time to sit down. What we do allow is a minimum of an hour call with the client. So what that means is you can really build the relationship up with your clients. So you'll go to see your regular clients, you'll build your relationship up with them, and they really, really enjoy seeing you on a week by week basis. Some of our clients have daily calls. So, if you're in and you're going to see them every day, it's something that they really look forward to. And it's essential for them as well. They have the care because they need it, or they need the companionship. They might be lonely, and that hour call could really make their day.
Yeah, no, I could definitely appreciate and understand that. And as you say, if maybe they are lonely, and as I say, that hour is sort of the as I say, is sort of something they're really looking forward to. As you say, you need to have someone who's going to have that ability to have a conversation, communicate effectively. I guess to almost to make it worth their while as well. Because I say, if have been looking forward to someone coming for so long, and as I say, they then are able to deliver the conversation and stuff, it must be so rewarding.
And that's why it is a rewarding role. A lot of our care professionals have said the work doesn't feel like work. And I think we can probably all agree that we've been in a position somewhere where work definitely feels like work. And, you can't wait till 5 o'clock or whatever time it is that you finish. And if a
Yeah.
job doesn't feel like work, then, you're in the right industry.
Definitely, and I completely agree with that. And talking about being in the industry, and I will straight away say in advance of this, I know there's no such thing as a typical day. I will happily hold my hands up and say that. But this question comes in two parts, really. If you had to maybe talk about one of your care professionals and describe what a typical day could look like, again, me knowing there's no such things, that what would that typical day look like? And the second part of that question is, what do the good days look like in a role, and what do the challenging days look like?
Yeah, so yeah, there's no typical day, but what I can say is we offer flexible kind of contracts to meet our care professionals' needs. So if you've got children or if you've got family commitments, if you have other work commitments, if you've got another part-time role, we can be flexible around that person's needs. So if we talk about someone's typical day that starts at, say, I don't know, 7 o'clock in the morning and finishes at let's say 2 o'clock in the afternoon, So it might be that your first call of the day is with Brenda, who needs some breakfast. So you introduce yourself to Brenda, make yourself aware that you're at the door. She'll come and answer the door potentially, or you let yourself in. And it could be that you are making her some breakfast. You might be doing a little bit of light housework or just washing up for her, having that conversation with her, and potentially offering some medications if it's medications that she is on. We then allow travel time between clients as well. So it might be that the next client requires just some housework. So it might be just putting the hoover around and changing their bed because they can no longer do that for themselves because they've got a bad back. The next client might need a 2-hour companionship call. So potentially you're taking them to the pub for a drink, or you're taking them out for tea and cake. No day is the same, but our clients do have specific needs, and that would all be specified within the care plan that our care professionals have. A challenging day generally sits outside of, if the things that are tasked to do with our clients don't really go according to plan. So if potentially one of our clients isn't very well, and we're trying to help them and overcome that, we do have clients that also have dementia. Dementia can be particularly challenging for that client and can be challenging for obviously the person looking after them, but all of our care professionals are dementia trained. So they are equipped to deal with our clients in the best way possible, and help them through their difficult and challenging days. So it might be not necessarily challenging for our care professional, but if you have that empathy, it might be that you kind of take that on board, and that could be a challenge to that care professional because they desperately want to help that person and make their day essentially.
That's fantastic, and again, thank you for summarising. Again, I know there's no such thing as a typical day. I know I keep saying that, but thank you for sort of painting the picture, say, of the kind of things they may be doing, and it's just so nice to hear about the impact they can have, as you say, on Brenda, or whoever it may be, and how much of a positive impact they can have. And it got me thinking. I must say, you've sort of touched on, as I say, some of the soft skills that maybe a person might need to have in this role, as say being a good communicator, being positive and able to hold a conversation. What kinds of sort of other training and maybe skills do you as an organization sort of maybe provide to or opportunities to learn to your health professionals?
Yeah, so we offer an in-house training program. So we have an assessment day initially, and then following that, we have 2 days training. So someone doesn't need any practical skills prior to coming on board with us because we can teach all that. We just say that you have to be the right person for the role.
Yeah.
You have to be that empathetic, friendly, and caring person, and really want to care for our community. But yeah, everything can be taught in-house down to, medications, manual handling, and the basic things that we would be going in to see someone for.
Brilliant. No, thank you. And just to sort of angle it towards your role specifically, so sort of if you had to describe sort of what you do as the business development manager within Home Instead, could you sort of summarize that for me?
Hard to summarize. But I work a lot in the community itself. I engage in local groups and activities and try to spread our brand awareness essentially, because we are a companion-led care company, and we do want to promote ourselves that way and show people that we're not just going to people's houses to essentially do tasks. It is to provide that companion-led care whilst we're there. I also do a lot of the advertising and marketing for Home Instead as well.
Brilliant. And I was going to talk a little bit about that as well, sort of about the sort of the other sides of the business. And I don't know if you could sort of explain, but so let's imagine you've make contact and maybe there's a new client. What actually is the process of maybe if someone's being visited for the first time, or how your care professionals go about building that relationship?
Yeah, so we have our dedicated home care consultants that go out to do care consultations. So they will spend a good 3 hours with the client to be able to ascertain their needs, and their requirements and what they're looking for in a care professional. So what we do off the back of that is we then match our care professionals to someone that our clients, sorry, to a care professional that we think that they're going to get on with. So, for example, if we signed up a client who was a massive Norwich City fan, for example, and we knew that we had a care professional that absolutely loved Norwich City and they wanted a bit of a companionship call, but maybe a bit of personal care, we probably know that they'll be able to have a good conversation from the offset about a common interest. So it might be that we match them due to similar interests. So the process would be we would introduce the client to that care professional. So, you know, they know each other and they've known who they've met. And then from that, they'll then go to visit them on a weekly basis. It could be that they see them, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, but it also could be that they see them 5 times a week.
It's lovely to hear about that level of sort of care going into it, as you say, as sort of, you know, where possible, matching people, I say, with interest to really provide as positive and great an experience for, you know, your clients as possible. I never realised you were in, you know, as I say, in this kind of role, you'd go into that much detail, as I say. But it's fantastic to hear. And, you know, if let's me give you a hypothetical scenario. Imagine you had 2 young people applying for roles with yourself as care professionals. You know, as you say, you've spoken about the things you can teach, and we've touched on some of the soft skills. What kind of things are you maybe seeing on their CV that maybe they stuff they do in their spare time or hobbies they have, or even previous experiences they've had that would make you think actually you've got the transferable skills to be a role to have a role here?
Yeah, sure. So we have a lot of uni students that join us in their early years, and you know, even people that haven't gone to uni as well. But it might be that they're looking to do some kind of nursing or something like that, where they need some prior experience before going into that line of work. So this kind of experience is where we can offer that. If that's not what they're kind of looking for, experience with even family members, so if it's their grandma or granddad that they've looked after, their aunt, uncle, mum or dad, that they have looked after that has been ill, or they've had a time in their life where they have had to be the carer, this is really good life experience to be able to put into this role. So, you know, any kind of formal qualifications are not necessary for this role to start with, but if they have some life experience, that's always great.
That's really nice to hear, and yeah, I can definitely think about sort of people I've known who've gone down this career path actually because, as I say, it all started with they had great relationships with their, you know, with their grandparents, or, you know, as I say, they were there for them through difficult times, and it's really inspiring to them, you know, to, I say, to think to go down that career path. And do you have many people sort of take up the roles who maybe come from different professional backgrounds, who actually have skills from maybe because they've done other roles? I don't know whether it's they've worked in hospitality or they've worked in retail, if you see what I mean, which actually transfer quite well.
Yeah, so we have people from all different backgrounds, and I say all different backgrounds. We have got people from hospitality, we've got doctors that have retired,
Oh, wow.
that have come on board with us. Honestly, every kind of profession that you can think of, we have had or currently have. Like I said, uni students, people trying to get their prior experience to then further on their skill set. But yeah, it is very varied, and you know, anything where you're using your communication skills, your listening skills, and you've dealt with the general public is really handy to have within this role.
That's really interesting and really reaffirming to hear, because I do a lot of talking with young people and have, you know, worked with them very closely, and there are sort of so many roles that people don't get into because they just think, oh, my experience is in that area, so, you know, I couldn't possibly do that. So it's really nice to sort of hear, as you say, that you've got people from a wide array of backgrounds, as I say, whether it's, you know, working hospitality, as I say, being a former doctor. And it's brilliant to hear that, as I say, you know, you're looking at the bigger picture, looking at their, you know, their, as you say, their soft skills, their own personal experiences, you know, to provide that excellent service. And really, my final question would be, and this again, this comes in 2 parts, Lauren. One, can you just tell me a little bit about sort of your career path and your sort of career journey? I'm not saying you didn't wake up one day and was like, you know what, I want to be a business development manager for home instead. But can you tell me a little bit about sort of the experiences you've had? And the second part to that question would be, if you could go back and speak to, I don't know, say 16, 17-year-old Lauren, going out on your career journey, taking into account, I don't know, maybe the lessons you've learned, the things you've achieved, the mistakes you might have made. What's the one piece of career advice you would give to your younger self?
Okay, so my career journey, when I left school, I ended up going into study to be a dental nurse. So I was a qualified dental nurse by the age of 17. I stayed in the industry for quite a few years actually, and it was a good stepping stone, I think, for me to get into paid work, to obtain a qualification. But I think sometimes, there's a lifespan on things. I got a little bit bored. I think it must have been 7 years that I was doing that for.
Wow.
And then I ended up working in claims for a little while. So something that Norwich is very good for. There's a lot of insurance about in Norwich. So I worked in insurance for a while, and that's where my communication skills picked up quite well. I had to do a lot of negotiations and different kind of handling, and some nice, some not so nice exchanges. I've done restaurant management. I've done really varied roles, to be honest. And I actually started at home instead as the recruiter. So I was recruiting, and there's been positions that have come up in the office that I've just jumped at when they've become available. So that's kind of how I've ended up here. Like I said earlier, I've been in positions where I've been excited by the end of the day. I
Yeah.
just, I've really not enjoyed what I've been doing, and I felt like my job was almost a little bit meaningless. And what I can say is, when you work in a job where you feel like you are giving back to the community, it can make, a difference not only to that other person's life, but it can make a difference to your own life. Giving is something that's a really rewarding thing anyway. And I think if you're getting paid for something where you are giving back to the community, it can be really good.
And would that be, do you think, your advice to your younger self? Would you say sort of actually go down a career path where you're giving back, and where you're having impact in your community?
Absolutely, because I just think that you're going to enjoy it more, and you'll stay within the role for a lot longer. And if you're enjoying something, you're more willing to learn as well. So if you want to develop your skills, we're an employer where we can offer that as well. So we can put you through qualifications. And I think if you are enjoying what you're doing, then you're more susceptible to want to learn.